The night a female police officer told me she needed to search my body, I honestly thought my life was about to fall apart, not fall in love. My name is Brian Mason. I am 26, and I run a small construction crew on the edge of Portland, Oregon. It is not a big company. It is just me and a few guys, working long days, building decks, fixing roofs, putting up walls for families in the suburbs. The work is hard on the back and on the feet. By the time the sun goes down, my shirt is stuck to my skin, my hands are dry, and my boots feel like they weigh a ton. Still, there is a good feeling when I see a messy place turn into something solid and new. That day had been extra long. We were framing an addition on a house in Beaverton. 12 hours of lifting boards, measuring, cutting, and climbing ladders. The sky stayed gray and heavy, but the rain held off, like it was waiting for us to finish. When we finally packed up, my muscles ached and my stomach growled. All I could think about was food and my old couch. On the way home, I stopped at the small 24-hour store near my place. The neon sign in the window flickered, and the parking lot was half empty. I went in, grabbed a six-pack of beer, a loaf of bread, and on a random thought, a big sausage link from the deli case. I told myself I would cook it with onions and call it dinner. Cheap, fast, and easy. The cashier knew me by face. I paid, nodded to him, and stepped out into the cool night air. The highway hummed in the distance. I walked toward my beat-up truck, my bag in one hand, my keys in the other. I was tired and half asleep on my feet. That was when I heard tires on gravel. A police cruiser rolled into the lot and pulled up beside me. The red and blue lights flashed, but the sirens stayed off. I stopped where I was, my heart jumping into my throat. I tried to think if I had done something wrong. Broken tail light, old ticket, something. The driver door opened, and she stepped out. She was tall, fit, and in full uniform. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail. Her badge caught the light from the street lamp. Her face was serious, eyes sharp and focused, like she saw everything at once. Beside her, jumping down from the car, was a large golden retriever with bright eyes and a busy tail. "Excuse me, sir," she said, walking toward me with that sure, steady cop walk. Her voice was firm but not harsh. "Did you just come from 12th Street by any chance? We have had reports of small thefts in the area. Snacks, drinks, little things. Did you see anything strange?" For a moment, I just stared at her, caught off guard by the question and by her at the same time. "No, officer," I said. "I just got off work, came here to grab some groceries. I have not been on 12th tonight." She nodded, but her eyes dropped to the plastic bag in my hand. Before I could say anything else, the dog barked and tugged forward, nose pointing straight at the bag. "Whoa there," I said, taking a small step back. The dog kept sniffing like my bag was the most important thing in the world. She put a hand on his collar and gave it a light pull. "Easy, Max." She looked at me again. "He is trained for detection, but he loves food. Would you mind if I take a quick look in the bag? Just to be sure. It is routine." My throat went dry. Part of me wanted to say no, but the lights were still flashing and her eyes did not look like the kind you lie to. "Sure," I said. "Go ahead." I set the bag on the hood of my truck and opened it. Max pushed his nose in right away, tail going even faster. She leaned in and looked. Her serious face slowly changed. The corners of her mouth twitched. She reached in, pulled out the sausage link, and held it up. "This is it?" she asked, a small smile forming. I rubbed the back of my neck. "Yeah, that's my big crime. Late-night dinner." She let out a short laugh, and her cheeks turned a little pink. "I am sorry. We have been chasing these snack thefts all week. Chips, candy bars, little stuff. Max must have smelled the meat and got too excited. He likes food more than he likes rules." She handed the sausage back to me and shook her head. "False alarm." "Thank you for your patience." "No problem, officer," I said, putting the sausage back in the bag. My heart started to slow down, but my eyes stayed on her. Up close, I could see faint dark circles under her eyes, like she had worked too many nights. There was a strength in the way she stood, but also a kind of tired weight on her shoulders. For a second, it felt like the moment was over. She turned a little like she was about to go back to her cruiser. The dog sat by her side, still watching my bag with hope. And then something in me woke up. Maybe it was the long day. Maybe it was that I had gone too long without anything new in my life. Maybe it was her small laugh. I heard myself speak before my brain could stop my mouth. "If it helps," I said, lifting the bag, "you can fine me for sausage smuggling. Or I can make it up to you with dinner sometime." She stopped and looked back at me, one eyebrow raised. For a moment I thought I had gone too far. A cop, on duty, in uniform. Me, a tired guy with a sausage and muddy boots. "That is the most original line I have heard in a while," she said at last, and this time her smile was bright and real. "All right, why not?" My chest tightened. She told me her name was Rosa, pointed to the name on her badge, and then gave me her number. I typed it in, my hands a little clumsy. She nodded toward Max. "Next time," she said, "if you invite me to dinner, bring extra for him, or he will never forgive you." "Deal," I said, grinning. She climbed back into the cruiser. Max gave my bag one last longing look, then jumped in beside her. The lights turned off, and the car rolled out of the lot, leaving me standing there with my groceries, my keys, and a phone that suddenly felt important. I got into my truck and started the engine, but did not drive right away. I just sat there, staring at her number on my screen. What just happened? One minute I was a worn-out construction guy buying beer and meat. The next, a female cop had searched my bag, almost searched my body, and walked away after giving me her number. On the drive home, the city lights blurred past my windshield. My boots still felt heavy, but my chest felt light. I kept thinking about her smile, the way she said my line was original, the way she talked to that kid at the counter when we walked out as if she knew the place well. Rosa. The name fit her somehow. In my small rental, I dropped the bag on the counter and opened a beer. I put the sausage in a pan with some onions, and the smell filled the kitchen. Still, I barely tasted anything. My mind was on my phone, lying on the table. Her name stared back at me in my contacts. Rosa. I added a little note under it. Officer Sausage. I laughed to myself. Was it too soon to text her? Should I wait till morning? Should I play it cool? I had no real plan. I just knew that if I did nothing, I would regret it. I picked up my phone and typed slowly. "Hey, this is Brian from the store. I promise my bag is legal. Can I make it up to you and Max with dinner sometime?" My thumb hovered over the send button. My heart beat faster than it had all day on the ladders. I thought of her tired eyes, her small laugh, the way Max had trusted her. Then I hit send. The message went through. The screen stayed still. No reply. I sat back in my chair, the pan sizzling on the stove, my whole world reduced to that small glowing screen in my hand, waiting to see if the female police officer who had searched my bag would also let me into her life. My phone did not buzz that night. I checked it while I ate. I checked it before brushing my teeth. I checked it again in bed with the lights off. Nothing. No reply from Rosa. For a while I stared at the dark ceiling and told myself it was no big deal. She was on duty. She was a cop. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she gave me her number, just to be polite. Still, the knot in my chest stayed there as I fell asleep. The next morning I woke up with a slight headache from the beers and way too little sleep. The room was gray with early light. My phone lay on the nightstand. I reached for it more out of habit than hope. There was a new message. I blinked hard and pulled the phone closer. "Hey Brian, Rosa here. Max confirms your bag is legal. He also confirms he likes hamburgers. Meet us at the burger place near Washington Park at 7 tonight. Do not be late, or I might send him to search your body for real." My heart kicked up. I read it again, then again. There was a small, smiling face at the end, the kind that made the whole message feel lighter. I sat up and laughed out loud in my empty room. On the site that day, I could not focus. My crew noticed right away. We were working on a garage addition, pouring concrete, measuring lines. I kept checking my phone even though there were no new messages. "Boss, you got that goofy look again," one of the guys said, slapping my shoulder. "Just a good night's sleep," I said, but my grin betrayed me. All day I pictured her out of uniform. I wondered what she looked like when she was not carrying a badge and a duty belt. I wondered if this was really a date or just a friendly dinner. I wondered if bringing flowers would be strange. By late afternoon, I rushed home, took a long shower, and shaved. I stood in front of my small closet for too long, then picked a clean, dark shirt and decent jeans. Not fancy, just me trying to be the best version of myself. At 6:30, I drove across town to the burger place by Washington Park. It was a casual spot with big windows, picnic tables outside, and strings of lights hanging overhead. The air smelled like grilled meat and fries. There were a few families, some couples, and a couple of dogs lying by their owners' feet. I got there early. Typical. I ordered a soda and sat at a table near the edge of the patio. I kept my phone faced up, checking the time every minute. At exactly 7, I saw her. She walked up the path with Max on a leash. No uniform this time. Just a simple blue sundress with a light cardigan, and her hair loose around her shoulders in soft waves. Without the heavy belt and badge, she looked lighter but still strong. Max's tail wagged hard as soon as he spotted me. "You beat us here," she said, smiling as she reached the table. "Impressive. I thought construction guys were always late." "I would never risk making a cop mad," I said, standing up. "Or her dog. Hi, Max." Max sniffed my hand and then my shoes, then sat down like he accepted me. We ordered at the window. Burgers for us, a plain patty for Max. When we sat back down, the sky was turning orange and pink over the tops of the trees. People jogged past on the sidewalk. A kid rode a bike in slow circles near the park. "So," I said, unwrapping my burger, "tell me about this guy. Is he really a crime fighter or just a food thief?" She laughed, and her whole face changed. "He is trained for search and rescue and basic detection. He has helped us find a missing teenager in the woods and scared off a suspect once just by barking his head off. But yes, he also thinks anything that smells like meat belongs to him." Max chomped his patty under the table like he understood every word. I watched her as she talked. In uniform, she had looked almost untouchable. Here, she looked human. There was a small scar by her eyebrow, faint freckles on her nose, and tired lines near her eyes that told me she had seen more than she said. "What made you want to be a cop?" I asked. She took a bite, then wiped her fingers on a napkin. "I grew up in the suburbs here. Rough street. Mom worked 2 jobs. Dad was in and out, and then just out. I saw kids I knew get pulled into bad stuff. Drugs, gangs, stealing. I always thought, someone should stop this. One day I realized maybe that someone had to be me. So I joined the force. It is not like TV. There is paperwork, long nights, and a lot of sad stories. But sometimes you help someone at the right moment, and it changes everything. Those days make it worth it." I felt something shift in my chest. She was not just a cool cop with a dog. She was a person who chose to stand in hard places on purpose. I told her about my life, too. About my dad teaching me to use a hammer, then dying of a heart attack when I was young. About how my mom worked as a nurse and did her best to hold us together. About starting as a laborer and slowly building my own small crew. "I like building things that last," I said. "You start with a mess. At the end, there is something strong where there was nothing. Families walk into a room you helped create, and you can see it on their faces. It feels good." We talked and talked. The conversation did not feel forced. It moved from work to childhood memories to favorite movies. Max lay by our feet, full and sleepy, his head on his paws. At one point, Rosa looked at me with a strange little smile. "You know I am older than you, right?" she asked. "A few years at least, and I am a cop. That does not bother you?" I sipped my soda and shook my head. "Age is just a number, and your job is part of who you are. I like who you are. The only thing that bothers me is how fast my heart is beating sitting across from you." Her cheeks turned pink. She looked away for a second, biting back a smile, then met my eyes again. "Smooth," she said softly. "Very smooth, Brian." The air between us shifted. I could feel it. The laughter was still there, but now there was something else too. Something warm and careful. As the sun dipped behind the trees and the string lights came on, casting a soft glow over the tables, she leaned back in her chair and watched me. "Tell you what," she said. "You met Rosa the woman tonight. How about you meet Officer Rosa for real next time? We still have those small thefts going on. I am working a Sunday evening patrol with Max. Come right along, see what we do when we are not flirting over burgers." My heart jumped. "A ride along?" I asked. "Like in the cruiser with you?" "Yeah," she said. "Come with us. Bring some treats for Max this time. I could use an extra set of eyes." I nodded before my brain could catch up. "I am in." She smiled, and there was a spark of something in her eyes I had not seen before. Respect, maybe. Trust. We finished our food, and she walked with me to my truck. Max tugged once at her side, as if telling her to hurry so they could get back to work. "This was nice," she said at my door. "Yeah," I said. "More than nice." She looked like she might say something else, then just gave my arm a light squeeze and stepped back. "Sunday," she said. "Station lot, 8 o'clock. Do not be late, Brian, or I might really have to search your body." She turned and walked away with Max, leaving me standing beside my truck, my heart racing and my mind already spinning about what waiting in that cruiser on Sunday night might bring. Sunday night came faster than I expected. All day I felt wired, like I had drunk too much coffee. I kept thinking about riding in that cruiser with Rosa, seeing her in her real world. By the time it got dark, I had already changed clothes twice, finally settling on jeans, a jacket, and work boots. I stuffed a small bag of dog treats in my pocket for Max. The station lot was quiet when I pulled in at 8. Streetlights cast yellow circles on the pavement. I saw her cruiser parked near the side, engine idling. Rosa stood by the open door, in full uniform again. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her face was serious. The playful woman from the burger place was still there, but now she was behind the badge. Max sat in the back seat, alert, his ears up, tail thumping when he saw me. "You are on time," she said, giving me a quick smile. "Good start, Mason." "Yes, ma'am," I said, joking, giving a small salute. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. "Get in, front seat, and remember, you are a guest. You listen, you watch, and if I tell you to do something, you do it. Got it?" Quote. "Got it," I said. We pulled out of the lot and into the city. The radio crackled with calls and codes I did not understand. The dashboard lights glowed soft blue. Outside, Portland moved past us in streaks of light and shadow. Bars, closed shops, quiet houses, a couple arguing on a corner, a man walking a dog. "This is what your nights look like?" I asked. "Most of them," she said. "Long, strange, never the same." We drove through a few neighborhoods. She pointed out different spots. A corner store that had been robbed twice. A park where she helped find a missing kid. An apartment building where she had answered too many domestic calls. "We are still keeping an eye out for those small thefts," she said. "Snacks, milk, stuff from porches. It sounds minor, but it adds up, makes people feel unsafe. There is usually a story behind this kind of thing. I want to know what it is." Max suddenly barked from the back, sharp and fast. He stood up, nails clicking on the plastic floor, nose pressed to the window. Rosa's body tensed. "He smells something." Quote. She slowed the cruiser as we passed an old, run-down apartment complex on the edge of town. Paint peeled from the walls. A few windows were dark. A broken bike lay on its side by a fence. Max barked again, more urgent now, and pawed at the door. Rosa pulled over and turned off the engine. The radio still buzzed softly. "Stay close," she said, "and do not try to be a hero. That is my job." We stepped out into the cold night. Max hit the ground ready, his harness snug on his chest, leash in Rosa's hand. His nose went to the air, then to the ground. He tugged forward, leading us down a narrow path past the back of the building. My heart raced. I was not a cop. I was a construction guy holding my breath in the dark. Max headed straight for a cluster of trash bins near the end of the alley. He barked again, loud this time. Something moved behind one of the cans. A small shape jumped up and turned. "Hey," Rosa said, her voice firm but calm. "Portland police. Come out where I can see you." A kid stepped into the weak light, maybe 12 or 13 years old. Skinny, messy hair. Clothes too big and dirty. He held a torn bag of chips in one hand, his eyes wide like he had been caught in a spotlight. The moment he saw Rosa's uniform, he bolted. "Stop!" she called. Max was faster. He did not bite or knock the kid down. He just jumped in front of him and blocked the path, growling low. The boy tripped over a crack in the concrete and fell on his backside, dropping the chips. He pushed himself back up against the wall, breathing hard. "Please," he said, tears already filling his eyes. "Please do not arrest me." "I am sorry." Rosa held up one hand. "Hey, easy. We are not here to hurt you. What is your name?" He looked from her to me, then to Max, who was now sniffing his shoes like they might turn into food. "Eddie," he mumbled. "My name is Eddie." "Eddie," she said gently, "is this you? Are you the one taking snacks and food around here?" He swallowed and nodded, wiping his nose on his sleeve. "We do not have anything at home," he said. "Mom is sick." Dad left. "The fridge is empty. I did not know what else to do. I am sorry." Quote. His shoulders shook. Max stepped closer and nudged his hand with his nose. Eddie flinched, then slowly put his fingers on the dog's soft head. Max leaned in like he had known Eddie his whole life. Something twisted inside my chest. This was not some punk stealing for fun. This was survival. Rosa knelt down so she was at eye level with him. I watched her face change. The hard cop line softened, but her voice stayed steady. "Eddie," she said, "look at me." He did. "You still cannot do this. Stealing is wrong, but I understand why you tried. We are going to do something different. Can you show us where you live?" His eyes widened with fear again. "You are going to take my mom away?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "We are here to help. I promise. But we need to see what is going on. Can you trust me?" He looked at Max, then at me, then back at her. Slowly, he nodded. We followed him around the corner and up a cracked sidewalk to a ground-floor apartment. The door frame was warped. The paint chipped. He pushed the door open, and we stepped inside. The place was dim and cold. In the small living room, there was a worn couch, a thin blanket, and a small TV that was turned off. The kitchen was tiny. The cabinets hung open, almost empty. A half bag of rice on one shelf. A couple of cans. Nothing in the fridge but a bottle of water and an old jar of mustard. In the bedroom, a woman lay on the bed under thin covers. She looked like she was in her 40s but felt older. Her face was pale. She coughed when she saw us. "Eddie," she whispered, "what is going on?" "Who are they?" "I am Rosa," Rosa said softly, stepping closer, hands visible and calm. "This is Brian. We are here to help. Eddie told us a bit about your situation." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry," she said. "I tried. I got sick. I lost my job. Bills came, and I could not keep up. I did not know he was stealing. I never wanted that." Her voice broke. I felt my throat tighten. I walked into the kitchen and opened the cabinets again. It hit me how bare they were. I thought about the food in my own place, my tools, my crew, all the jobs we did for people who never had to worry about their next meal. "Ma'am," I said, turning back to her, "my name is Brian. I work construction. I saw your roof on the way in. I think it is leaking. If you are okay with it, I can bring my crew and at least patch it up. No charge. We can also get you some groceries to fill that fridge." She stared at me like I was speaking another language. "Why?" she asked, voice shaking. "Why would you do that?" "Because you deserve a break," I said, "and because your son should not have to steal chips to keep you going." Rosa nodded. "I know some local programs, churches, food banks, a clinic that might help with your health. I can make some calls. Get you in touch with people who can step in." Eddie stood in the doorway, one hand in Max's fur. He looked at us like we were dropping out of the sky. "You would do that for us?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "We would, but you have to meet us halfway. No more stealing. Deal?" He nodded fast. "Deal, I promise." Quote. We stayed there for a while, getting names, writing down numbers, listening to their story. Rosa called in a quick note to the station so they knew what was happening. Then we stepped back outside into the cold night. I watched her as she closed the cruiser door after putting Max in. "You do this a lot?" I asked. "Run into people like that?" She looked tired, but there was a small light in her eyes. "More than you think," she said. Sometimes it is messy. Sometimes it is too late. Tonight, maybe we got there in time. As we drove away, I could not stop picturing the empty fridge, the thin blankets, the way Eddie had held on to Max like he was the only solid thing in the world. By the next morning, I had made up my mind. On my break, I snapped a few photos of the outside of their building and posted in a neighborhood group online, asking for help. I explained, without names, about a sick mom and a hungry kid, about a roof that leaked and cabinets that were bare. I offered my labor for free if people could pitch in with materials and food. By noon, people were commenting. Some said they would bring canned goods. Others offered clothes, blankets, small cash. My crew did not even blink when I asked them to help after hours. "Of course, boss," one of them said. "You point, we work." That afternoon, Rosa texted me. "Community outreach team is on board. Food bank too. You started something, Mason. You sure you are ready for this?" Quote. I looked at the screen, at her name, at her words. Ready? I did not know, but I knew one thing. Helping that boy and his mom felt more important than any job I had lined up. And doing it with Rosa made it feel like we were building more than a patched roof. We were building something of our own. I just did not know yet how much it would change both of us. The next week felt like a storm that finally started to clear. Once the post about Eddie and his mom went up, people began to move. Some neighbors dropped off canned food and pasta. A teacher from a local school brought a box of notebooks and pencils. A few people sent money for medicine. My crew showed up after work with ladders and tools, ready to fix that roof like it was our own. Rosa kept her word too. She talked to her precinct. She called community centers, churches, food banks, and a clinic that offered low-cost care. She did it all between calls and reports, sometimes late at night on her break in the cruiser. We texted back and forth, sharing updates, sharing small joys when something went right. But not everyone was kind. At the hardware store one afternoon, an older man shook his head when he heard us talking. "Kid is a thief," he said. "You give him help, he will just take more. You are wasting your time." Online, a few people wrote sharp comments on my post. Things like, "Why reward bad behavior?" or "Call the police and let them handle it." Even one of my guys pulled me aside on a site. "Boss," he said, "you sure about this? Some folks say you are just doing all this to impress that cop lady. I do not want trouble for the crew." His words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, doubt crept in. I looked at the half-built wall in front of me, the lumber, the plans. I thought of Eddie's thin face and his mom's tired eyes. "Let them talk," I said at last. "We know what we are doing." That night, Rosa and I sorted donations in her small garage. Boxes were stacked along the walls. Max slept in a corner, stomach full from the treats people kept slipping him everywhere. She held a children's book in her hands, running her thumb over the cover. The look on her face was far away. "You okay?" I asked. "This feels familiar," she said quietly. When I was Eddie's age, my mom worked double shifts at a diner after my dad left. Some nights we had cereal for dinner. Some nights we had nothing. A neighbor once left a bag of groceries at our door. No note, just help. I never forgot it. She set the book down and sat on a crate. "I became a cop because I wanted to be that person who steps in," she said. "But some days it feels like I am standing in front of a wave with my hands up, and the wave just keeps coming." I sat beside her on the cool concrete floor. "You made a difference for Eddie," I said. "He is back in school. His mom is getting care. That happened because you followed Max into a dark alley and chose to care instead of just write a report." She looked at me, eyes shiny in the dim light. "You did that too," she said. "You called your crew. You asked for help when you could have stayed out of it. Why did you do that, Brian?" I had to think for a moment. "After my dad died, my mom held everything together on her own," I said. "She worked nights at the hospital, came home tired, still tried to smile. A couple of my dad's old friends came by and fixed small things for free. Leaky pipes, broken steps. They did not say much, they just helped. I remember how that felt. I guess I want to be that kind of person now, the one who shows up." We sat there in silence for a few seconds. The air smelled like cardboard and dust and dog treats. Then she reached out and touched my hand. "You are a good man, Brian," she said in a soft voice. "You have no idea how rare that is in my world." Quote, Her fingers stayed on mine a second longer than needed. My chest felt tight in a good way. From then on, things between us shifted slowly. We went by Eddie's place almost every other day. Sometimes with groceries, sometimes with tools, sometimes just to check in. Eddie helped my crew carry boards and asked questions about nails and levels. His mom started to look a little stronger. She made cookies when she had the energy and pressed them into our hands with a smile that made my throat ache. One weekend, the neighborhood group decided to throw a small block cookout in the courtyard of Eddie's building. A way to welcome them back into the community and say out loud that they were not alone. Grills smoked, kids ran around laughing. Someone brought music on a small speaker. My crew grilled burgers. A couple of Rosa's co-workers from the station dropped off pies and stayed to eat. People who had whispered before now came forward with plates in their hands and cautious smiles. I watched Eddie that day. He was not lurking in shadows or hiding behind doors. He was right in the middle of it, laughing, talking to other kids, tossing a ball for Max. As the sky turned deep blue and the string lights flickered on above us, Rosa and I slipped away to a bench at the edge of the courtyard. We sat close, shoulders touching, watching the scene. "Did you ever think a false alarm at a store would lead to this?" she asked, nodding at Eddie helping a little girl fill her plate. "No," I said, smiling. "I thought I was just buying a sausage that night." She laughed, then grew quiet. "I do not let people in easily," she said. "The job makes you guarded. You see too much. You start to build walls. But with you, it feels different. I feel like I can breathe." I turned to her, the lights reflected in her eyes. My heart pounded, but I did not look away. "You make me feel seen," I said simply. "Not just like a guy who swings a hammer, but like I matter." For a moment, we just looked at each other. The noise of the cookout faded into a soft blur. She lifted her hand and rested it on my cheek. I leaned in. Our lips met, gentle at first, like a question, then a little deeper, like an answer. The kiss was not rushed, not wild. It was slow and warm, full of all the small moments that led us here. When we pulled back, our foreheads touched, and we both smiled. "That was nice," she whispered. "More than nice," I said. Worth getting searched in a parking lot. Max let out a soft bark from a few feet away, as if to say he agreed. We both laughed, and the tension in the air turned sweet instead of sharp. As fall turned to winter, our bond grew. We did not announce anything to the world, but we did not hide either. If I brought coffee to her on a cold day, nobody said much. If she swung by a sight on her break, my crew just nodded and smiled. The neighbors who had doubted us at first now waved when they saw us walking Max through the park on a Sunday morning. By Christmas, the city was dressed in lights. Porches glowed. Trees shone in front windows. The air was cold and crisp, our breath visible when we talked. On Christmas Eve, we packed Rosa's cruiser like a sleigh, wrapped gifts, warm clothes, a big bag of food, and a huge chew bone for Max filled the back. Eddie's apartment did not look sad anymore. Light spilled out from the windows. A small fake tree glowed in the corner, covered in paper ornaments he had made. The smell of baking filled the air. Neighbors came and went that night, dropping off dishes for a shared meal. My crew brought a ham. One of Rosa's co-workers brought pies. People who once gossiped from far away now laughed together around one crowded table. At one point, Eddie came up to us, cheeks red, eyes shining. He wrapped his arms around Rosa first, then me. "Thank you," he said, his voice shaking a little. "I am done stealing, I promise. I want to be like you two when I grow up. Either a cop or a builder." Rosa blinked fast and hugged him tighter. "You just focus on being kind, Eddie," she said. "That is what really matters." Later, when the crowd thinned and we stepped out onto the small front stoop, snow began to fall. Tiny flakes drifted down, catching the light from the strings of bulbs hung across the courtyard. Max sat between us, head up, nose twitching, fur dusted white. I took Rosa's hand. It fit into mine like it had always been meant to be there. If I had not bought that sausage, I said, watching the snow gather on the rail. "You and Max would have driven right past me that night." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Funny how one small choice can change everything," she said. "One silly line in a parking lot, one scared kid in an alley, and now here we are." I turned to her. Snowflakes landed on her hair, melting slowly. "I do not know what the future looks like," I said. "Your world is dangerous. Mine is busy and messy. But I know this. I want to keep building with you. Not just roofs or cases. A life." She looked up at me, eyes shining in the cold light. Then she smiled, the soft, true smile I had seen that first night in the lot. "I want that too, Brian," she said. "With you, it feels like I am not standing in front of the wave alone anymore." I cupped her face in my hands and kissed her again, slow and steady. The snow fell around us. Max let out a quiet, happy sound and pressed against our legs. When we pulled apart, Eddie was at the window inside, waving. His mom sat beside him, a warm blanket on her lap, a peaceful look on her face. We waved back. That night, as I drove home with Rosa in the passenger seat and Max snoring in the back of my truck, the city lights looked different. Softer. Warmer. My life had not turned into some perfect story. I still had bills. She still had hard calls. Eddie and his mom still had a long road ahead. But we had each other now. A female police officer who once told me she needed to search my bag had searched my heart instead. I let her. She found the lonely parts and helped fill them with something strong. Not magic, not a fairy tale, something better, something real.